Hey, welcome to Hawks, the biggest, the greatest, the most amazing fan-based live stream on the planet. Chris and Rhys, how are you, fellas?
Howdy. Not too bad, mate. Yourself?
Oh, mate, I know we lost, but I'm up. I'm up and about.
Yeah, it's been a big week. Well, it's been a big 3 days.
Mate, I don't mind. We lose one, win one. I do not mind on this rebuild whatsoever. It's like if you want to be the best, you got to beat the best. And I think in areas we matched him. And I wish we had a one, but the better team won in the end. So it's okay. But the signs are looking good.
That's right. Yeah, like you said, there was good signs, and that's all we can ask for. It's just frustrating. You think, why can't we play like this all the time? But that's footy.
Well, we had some pretty big outs. So, and dare I say, I reckon the biggest out we had is only played 14 games. Will Day.
Yeah, big Wilbur.
If he's seriously in his first year and he's our biggest out. And I genuinely believe that he is he makes such a big difference and a big impact. So anyway, nevertheless, here we are.
What do you got from the game, Rhys? Yeah, let us know.
Yeah, well, luckily, we all got to go in the celebration of Silk's 400th game, and we didn't get the result we were looking for. But we ran into a top four side who have got a lot to prove, and fair to say that the Hawks aren't pushing for the 8. I think anyone that hasn't figured that out by now is probably a bit late to the party, as we know. So we saw some encouraging signs. Congratulations to Sean Burgoyne on hitting 400. And I thought we had some really good contributors on the night. And I would like to start with Lockie Bramble, who I think had his best game for the Hawks, had his third outing and looked really composed with the footy. So yet another young one that's coming along. So it's not all doom and gloom at the Hawks for sure.
Not at all. Yeah, he's he stood out to me. So he didn't really stand out the previous games, but this one he did stand out. So and I know you're on the Bramble train there, Rhys. So it's good to see that validated for you, mate. Now, if you're just tuning in, make sure you tag a mate and get them watching as well. Any of the Hawthorn faithful and supporters from around the world, we'd love to hear where you're watching from. As we can see, we got the reliable Brett Lear. Great to have you on, Brett. Thanks for watching us there from Durham County in the UK. Fantastic. Love it. It's love to. I don't know about you, but I'd love to see it go international, the sport. But it's what makes us unique, though, isn't it? So we're kind of selfish that way. So, but there was other big news coming out of Hawthorn this week, Chris.
Big news. You want to go there now?
Let's go there.
All right. Everybody's waiting to hear it. Oh, should we wait for the numbers? We'll wait for the numbers to pop up a bit higher.
Tag a few more mates, get them in.
We'll just quickly touch on Box Hill's performance on the weekend. Played Gold Coast Suns, 111-39. So pretty convincing victory there. They've won, I think, 4 or 5 in a row now. Fergus Green, the standout, 6 goals and 19 touches. So he is a former AFL listed player with Bulldogs. So there might be a few people sniffing around him come the end of the season. Whether he might be one to be elevated onto our list, who knows? Brockman, from our AFL players, Brockman kicked 2 goals, Callow 1, Pepper 1, and Reeves in the ruck kicked 1. I think Reeves had another reasonable outing in the ruck. And I think Josh Morris actually, instead of playing forward, went back and had 22 touches across the back line. So not a bad performance there.
Not bad at all. How did Brockman go, Chris? I'm keen to see him back in the side.
I'm not sure how many touches he had, but it sounded like he had a fairly decent impact on the game compared to his previous week or two since he's been back. So he's a potential to be elevated to the list this week as far as the ends. So I don't know if we want to see him back. Might move on to the ins and outs potential for this week. We're always a bit early on a Wednesday as we don't want to clash with the AFL games, but there's a few quiet players on the night. We'll start with the main man, and it was a great, just atmosphere at the ground, and what they put on for Burgoyne was fantastic. He had so many people there supporting him. But yeah, he almost looked a bit nervous, I think, at times. He had a few blunders. But what do you think? Do you think he might have a little rest this week, or potentially just be emergency?
I think they'll rest him for the rest of the year, mate. Get him through to his 400 because he deserves it. But look, last year he looked a step off his pace. Right now he looks 2 steps off. I love him, and I keep saying roll him out in the wheelchair, but that's just a joke. And sadly, I think he's done, boys. Got him to his 400th. He might be a medical sub going forward.
That was going to be my point. We've got 7 games left. He's borderline the perfect medical sub. He came on against GWS, had 9 touches at 100% when Chad went off. So it sounds quite weird to say that there's a spot for him as the medical sub. If he doesn't get on the park and we're fully fit, then we'll take that. But unless it's a ruckman or a full forward that goes down, then he can fill the spot. So yeah, medical sub for mine for Silk. And yeah, like you said, it was a wonderful occasion, and to see him get chaired off, and congratulations to Port, and well done to Travis Boak, who also chaired him off as well. That was amazing stuff from Port. So
that was lovely,
Silk,
wasn't it?
Yeah, it really was. But yeah, best 22 for Silk. Not so sure. I think, Will Day probably comes in and takes him, or Damon Greaves' spot. We looked a little shaky down back, but Denver should be coming back as well. Not sure about Will's fitness. So DGB back in that lineup, got Freo this week. I really don't think it's as doom and gloom as perhaps some Hawks fans have been saying it is. I'm excited. How are you boys feeling?
Yeah, well, Freo's form's been up and down, and I think it's one we could pinch. But again, it's that old catch-22, moving up or moving down the draft order if we're moving up the ladder. So yeah, mixed feelings.
I'm shocked that there's doom and gloom regarding our game against the Dockers. I think it's absolutely gettable. There's a good reason we lost on the night, and that was just too many young players. They didn't have enough polish in the middle, and that's where Port Adelaide outdid us. Was just the movement in the middle. It's the contested ball. They were just superior to us. We won't talk about some of the decisions that were made. So even though they were highly disappointing, but it was I think we came close, and I think that if we get Will Day back and even DGB, I think we're going to beat him, boys.
All right. Well, we'll get the predictions at the end of the episode like we normally do. But yeah. All right. Well, let's move into the big news of the week, which was sort of anticipated when was going to happen. But Collingwood's approached Sam Mitchell. The clubs had to make a few quick decisions, and they've announced Clarko to finish his existing contract and Sam to take over as the head coach at the end of 2022. So I think, I don't know, we would have liked to have let it play out a bit longer, but our hand was forced to make a decision, I think. So like Jason Dunstall said, I think he said it's not the decision he would have made, but he's not against it. So
yeah,
it's a hard one to call, and until we see it in 5 years' time how it plays out, we won't know the answer.
I think you've got a situation there. Like, there's a couple of that it mimics, right? I mean, do you remember when Buckley was getting offered a role? I think it was at West Coast, and they didn't want that to Magpies didn't want that to happen, and so they sort of forced this upon Mick Malthouse for this to happen, and lo and behold, they had this transition. It's sort of got a bit of that sense to it. I'd love to know if Clarko wanted to carry it on at least another year, because I mean, let's be honest, we're not going to win next year, right?
Yeah.
So, but the year after, we've got bloody good chance. At the trajectory that we're going, I feel that we've got a really good chance the year after. And for him, let's say he gets us to the finals next year and competitive. What about the year after that? It's like there's his 5th premiership that he could have been getting. And I know I'm counting my chickens before they're hatched, but I'm just more seeing this play out. And so the other scenario I'd liken it to is when Paul Roos handed it over to Horse. And he handed over a very good squad to Horse, and he took them on to win the premiership that year. So, there's a couple of things there, a few similarities in my mind that are going on with this particular scenario.
Yeah, I understand where you're coming from, and a lot of fans are thinking the same. But a couple of key differences to note is that Collingwood were coming off 2 grand final performances back-to-back before Buckley took over. They won in 2010. They lost in 2011 to a Geelong team that on paper was just ridiculous. And then, like you said, Buckley got a West Coast offer. Collingwood said, we're having you, and sacrificed Mick Malthouse for the role. But he was inexperienced back then, Bucks, and it took him... they had some decent finals runs, but you could argue that for the first 6 years, they went backwards. Sam's won a premiership as an assistant coach, ironically, out West Coast. He's come back at Hawthorn, taken on a couple of roles. He's coaching Box Hill this year, who are third on the ladder right now and have won 5 on the trot. I mean, at some point, Sam was going to be a senior coach. It was going to happen, and I think we're going to be all the more grateful for it that it's at Hawthorn and it's not somewhere else. Clarko's still got 29 games in charge, the 7 this year and the 22 next year. So, it's not like Clarko's dying or he's leaving tomorrow. So
you mean the 26th next year, right?
Yeah, I'm being conservative. 29 minimum. We'll go with that.
All right.
So I had a little quote there from Will Schofield from West Coast saying, put it this way, we wouldn't have won in 2018 without Sam Mitchell as an assistant coach. So pretty big raps, especially. We know a lot of good news we've heard internally, but when a player comes out from another team and says that, that's pretty good to hear, I think.
So I'd be curious to know, what are your boys' thoughts on Clarko when he finishes up the coaching role at Hawthorn? What then?
It's hard to know if he put on a bit of a front for the press conference, but I like to think he's pretty honest and upfront. And for me, it felt like he wasn't going to leave Hawthorn. So I know a lot can change, and especially if him and Sam start butting heads a little bit. As Luke Hodge pointed out, they're very similar types, and it's likely to happen. But I think his heart's at Hawthorn, and I don't think money's going to pull him away. It's maybe success. I think someone's got to put a package in front of him where it's going to be maybe a challenge, but also the chance to win more flags. So, or whether he hangs around Hawthorn in a different role. What do you think, Rhys?
He's too young to retire.
Yeah, it's a weird one because Collingwood fans would probably love him at Collingwood. Carlton fans maybe would like him at Carlton if David Teague goes. Make no mistake, the AFL would want him at Gold Coast in a heartbeat. And the best sort of coaching role that he could take on in terms of getting success might be at GWS if Leon Cameron's no longer their man. But the one thing that we don't know is what the bloody hell does Clarko want? And until we find out, we've just got to sit tight. But if Clarko's the coach round 1, 2022, there's still some speculation that might not happen. But if he's our coach, he will coach us to the end of 2022. And what he does from there, I'm not really sure we're in a position to complain. Clarko's done everything that he could have possibly been asked for and more for the Hawthorn Footy Club. And we've just got to thank him and wish him luck down the road, just as long as he doesn't win a flag with anyone else, because he can just be remembered as a Hawthorn one, but that's a little selfish. But yeah, I think Hawthorn fans have got 29 games now to do what we can to thank Clarko for everything that he's done for us for what will be his 18th season.
Wow, yeah, it's stunning, isn't it? I can't imagine him retiring. So, yeah, and I can't see how it would work if he stayed on at the Hawks, like maybe director of football or something like Fags' old role. I just can't see that happening.
I think it's a perfect role for him.
I just can't see it. Like I'd love him to go.
I said that about Mick too.
True. Yeah, I just can't see it happening. He's too alpha, or do you know what I mean? Like he'd have to be in charge. I can't see him taking a back seat, and not that he doesn't have the emotional intelligence to do so. I just can't see it happening. The guy, he's a bit of he's fairly nostalgic, Clarko, and it wouldn't surprise me if he ended up at Melbourne or North Melbourne, one of his old teams.
Yeah. That's a highly likely, love story, isn't it? But Melbourne's on a pretty successful path at the moment, and North sort of on their way up, and I don't know that they would make such a big call this season. Well, they've got one season up their sleeve to make a call on their coach if it doesn't pan out next year, I guess.
Yeah, but even if it was panning out, you'd still swap them, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it'd be tough. Yeah.
Well, look, I mean, when Ross Lyon became available, Freo got rid of their perfectly good coach and put in Ross Lyon. So
True.
it doesn't. It does
Mark
happen.
Harvey's still got knife wounds in his back. Anyway.
Well, yeah. So anyway, let us know in the comments what you think will happen to Clarko next season. The season after. Where do you see him going? So I'd be keen to get your guys'
in the comments. But yeah, if you think there might be, well, that's what Hodgie was saying. He thinks that clubs are going to come hard at him, and he's seriously going to consider it because he feels like Hawthorn sort of abandoned him by making this decision, but I don't see it that way. Clarko was the one who called the meeting to discuss the future based on the coaching situation around the league. So I think he called the meeting knowing that his future was at stake, and that was the outcome of it. So
are you saying Hodgie said he'd be feeling a bit miffed about it?
Well, he's always stood by the club and honoured his contract, and I think Hodgie was saying it's like Hawthorn haven't honoured him. So it's a bit, I don't know. That was his take on it.
But that's his speculation, isn't it? He's not like heard from Clarko or anything.
No, not at all. No.
Yeah.
Clarko said he'd been speaking with his wife for the last 18 months, knowing or discussing when is this going to end. He said that his current contract had lined up to be in line with his youngest son finishing high school. So that's a bit of a game changer as far as lifestyle for them. So whether that means, you could take a year off. He's been working pretty hard for the last 18 years. So
true.
He could do a bit of travelling if travelling's an option. So who knows? He could go to another sport. He could do anything.
I don't think he'd sit still, mate. It's not his personality.
True.
But we'll see. All right, so Tyson's saying Clarko to Gold Coast, move made by the AFL to assist Dew. I could see that happening. Yeah, go to one of these startup clubs and help them out, like GWS or Gold Coast. I definitely could see that happening. So why not?
I'm sure the AFL would throw an extra $1 in his pocket under the table.
I'm sure they would.
The AFL would buy him a theme park if we could get him up there.
The Clarko theme park.
That's it.
The Rioli ride.
Yeah, imagine walking into Dreamworld and just seeing a big picture of Clarko. That'd freak you out. Anyway, do we want to get back to the footy, boys? Because there is a player that I do want to talk about. Jimmy Worpel was the fans' MVP. 23 touches, I think, 9 clearances, 8 tackles, a really nice goal on his left foot. We questioned Hawthorn accepting his 1-week suspension and wondered if he needed a break. Well, I think he's had 23 touches in both games, a combined 16 clearances, and kicked a goal in both games. So fair to say it's worked.
Yeah, back to sort of his breakout season, isn't it? So if he can keep that consistency for the rest of the year, I'd be stoked.
Yeah, I agree. Now, boys, let's touch on the Port Adelaide game. Where do you feel we went wrong?
Geez, our first half was rough.
Yeah, we started the game terribly, didn't we? And chasing tail after that. So what was it? About 32 points, I think, against a top 4 side. So it's an honourable loss. Like I said, there was snippets there where we played good footy and had good ball movement, and our structures were okay, but it was just the odd. I just don't think we were clean enough with the ball. We made a few errors, and the errors cost us big time.
Yeah, the AFL don't have a stat for it, but I'd love to know how many handball turnovers we had. We just sort of, especially in that first half, slipped back into handball into bloke standing still, which I know with a lot of fans is a pet peeve, as it is amongst the three of us. But yeah, like we were saying before, we're a young side. We kicked 1-5, I think, in the first quarter, and a little bit more conversion there with some scoreboard pressure. Yeah, just a few things early just didn't go right, and like Brad was saying, we were chasing Taylor touch at the back end, and like we said, Porter a top 4 side. Ollie Wines had something like 23 contested possessions, which is just insane. And yeah, they got the better of us. Charlie Dixon was good up forward, although he got a very dubious free kick in the goal square in an incident that I'm sure we want to talk about. Glenn Nelson there, backline was a shambles. Yeah, I think the backline's got a little bit of blame directed towards the midfield especially in that first half. It was coming out of the centre pretty easily. I think we managed to get the clearances back to somewhat respectable, but yeah, I think we've got sort of probably 18 blokes on Saturday night who could put their hand up and go, we weren't at our best and we've got to get better. And I think Freo we're going to cop it on Saturday, which I'm looking forward to.
I agree. Now, we were all at the game with us three plus Matt, so it was very enjoyable hanging out there and going to the game. We were very honoured. We wanted to get down there for Burgoyne's 400th. Look, it was from where we were sitting in the nosebleeds, because that's all we can afford at Talking Hawks. The one thing I observed is that Port Adelaide was superior to us in the middle and in traffic, and they were far more composed and speedy. And anytime we tried to go through traffic, it was disjointed and we had a lack of skill. And it was sort of like what we were doing last year, butchering the ball when the pressure was on in traffic. And it's sort of, we got pressured back into that again. Whereas the game against Sydney and against GWS, we weren't doing that at all. It's like we had our composure. Mind you, we had some better players in it as well, but it's like, geez, if we can if we had had our composure through the middle in traffic, I think we would have done very well. That to me was the disappointing side.
Yeah, it feels like you said, you touched on those games that we won, and it's like we had the first use of the ball. We've got the momentum going forward. As soon as they turn it over in our forward line, we had the structure set up to stop it. And it's just like the opposite happened. As soon as they controlled the game sort of thing, and as soon as we got it out of our back line, it would just come straight back in again. Yeah,
it was disappointing. Interesting comment there by Stephen Camilleri. Segler is the barometer. What do you think about that, fellas?
When he's up and about, we're doing all right. And when he's not up to his standard, then yeah, it sort of does set the standard of where we're at.
He's only played the last 4 games, hasn't he? I mean, I know he played the first few, but then he had some weeks off. But yeah, interesting. I'm not sure how I feel about the whole barometer. We hope the barometer's the captain. That's kind of what they're there for. But I'll give Port this. Their experienced midfielders, Boak, Wines, Carl Amon, we saw it on Saturday night. When they get the ball even in traffic, they know what they want to do with it before they get it. And the Hawks have still got some young guys who haven't quite got that yet, and that's okay. They'll get that with experience. We're not here to go, these guys haven't got it, so you know, it's all doom and gloom. It's absolutely not. These guys will get it with experience. Guys like John Newcomb, who again wasn't terrible, found the footy, got himself in a really good spots. I think he laid 7 tackles again and injured Kane Farrell, who is the first player to get nuked. Yes, I am stealing that. And yeah, I mean, look, we don't want to see players get as injured as Kane Farrell did, but seeing a Hawk line someone up and get them is going to make us happy. That unsociable Hawk is back. DGB brought it against the Giants. I brought it in that situation. Brad's already smiling, so it's proven my point for me.
Come on, DGB. Oh, mate, I want more of that.
Absolutely.
I cannot wait to come back.
Yeah. So once our inexperienced players get to a stage where not only are they comfortable at the level, but they know where they want the ball to go before it comes to them, then we're going to be all right. We're going to have those inconsistencies, but thought the effort was there. And like Brad said, there were a few momentum killers outside of our control that we probably don't need to discuss because it'll look like we're whinging. Greg Miles there wants Ned Reeves back in the side, which I'm not against.
It's a tough choice, isn't it? I think we need to play him and just go with our youth. So whether that means Segs remains in the team in some capacity or if he's down at Box Hill. But
boys, I want to talk about our mate Hardigan.
Let's go. What do you got?
I know we're a bit divided here, but boys, I don't see a place for him. I just don't going forward. He's a good filler for when we're injured, and that's it. Like, does his contract end this year, or is he on for another year after this?
3 years after this. We got him on a 3-year deal.
All right, so he's got. Hang on, didn't he play last season? Or was it just this season?
No, didn't play last year. Did he?
Okay,
Am I going nuts?
I don't know. COVID,
No,
man, it's all a
we'll
mess.
pick him up.
It's just
We'll pick him up this year. Yeah, first season.
Yeah, pick him up. Yeah,
all right. So he's got another 2 years to go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. To me, he fills in if we're down, and maybe a selection if we've got the gorilla like a Tom Hawkins, Charlie Dixon, and that's about it. So I just can't see him. I don't see a role for him going forward.
But you've just given us his role, mate. He's to play on the gorilla forwards. He made
Harry said maybe.
He made Harry Himmelberg last week look like an under-16s player. He was nowhere.
Yeah,
so Charlie beat up on bad sides, and that's where we're at the moment. And, Kyle and Frosty wasn't – I thought Frosty struggled more than Hartigan did. But, yeah, well, there you go. Paul Edwards is on my side, so I'll slip you the 20 later, Paul. Thanks for that. But yeah, our tours were just beaten on the night. I mean, Freo don't really. Matt Taberner's not really a gorilla forward, so I understand where you're coming from. Do we send Hartigan to a Rory Lobb? Potentially, Tyson All won't play next year with Sicily back in DGB. That's a really good. That's a really good selection headache for the Hawks to have next year, but we can only focus on this week. So I actually think you might be right, Brad, in the sense of. I'm not sure if he plays against Freo unless we put him on like a Rory Lobb. But if DGB comes back, I'd love to see DGB go to Taberner. He's got the stamina. Matt Taberner plays a bit like Logan McDonald did, and we know that DGB shut him down famously, which got him on a lot of people's draft boards last year. So it'll be interesting. But long term, we need someone that can lock down the big power forwards, and I still feel like Hartigan can do that.
Well, that's sorry, Chris. I just want to point out that Dominic agrees with me. Thank you, Dominic. He's, Dominic is well respected as one of our most articulate and insightful viewers. Thank you for that, mate. I really appreciate that view you've got. Sorry, back to you, Chris.
Yeah, well, that is my question, and we've talked about who plays on the big forwards. Really, Frost already plays above his weight, so. And then if the team's got 2 decent-sized forwards, you've got, Denver running around at 75 kilos. He's probably about 85. But, what I mean? I don't think he's big enough to be playing on the second.
He's about 86 wet.
Well, if Hartigan stayed in and played on Lobb, we put Frosty on Taberner, and DGB could go to Josh Tracy, and DGB would come in for Damon Greaves.
Greaves, I thought he played all right. He had 18 touches. Yeah, he's played. He's had to earn his spot back in the team. He's played a lot of Box Hill this season, so I don't know. It's a tough decision whether to drop him.
Look, I know, Chris, you and Matt are on the Greaves train, but that I think you're just blinded by the red hair, and it's never really been convincing for me. I'm sorry. It's you're going back to your Viking lineage or your Irish, whatever it is, and you're saying, "Oh, my Hardy's the redhead. He's got to be amazing." And it's like he's just not doing it for me, mate. I'm sorry.
Well, you're talking about my Irish heritage, but I'm ready to put Nash in the bin. That was a bit harsh. But Nashi was not up to standard on the weekend. Mind you, he played a cracking game at Box Hill the week before to earn his spot. So it's a really tough decision when players play at that level. Same as O.Hanrahan, absolutely kills it at Box Hill level. Comes into AFL and he's hit and miss. So
yeah, boys, I'm stunned that we look. Connor Nash. He's one of the guys, when he first came on, I got super excited. I could not wait for him to play. But I genuinely don't believe that he'll be anything more than a VFL player. His improvements aren't enough. He's got to be improving far more than what he has been for my life to make it to AFL. And I'm a bit surprised that we keep persevering with him.
The frustrating thing is him and Ollie, I mean, we're going to put them together. They're playing different roles in the seconds than they are in the firsts. I mean, Connor did play around the ball at stoppage clearances. He got 4 clearances on Saturday night. But at centre bounces, he was lining up at half forward. He was sometimes on a wing. He wasn't doing that at Box Hill. He was in the gut as a taller type and got 28 and did what he did. And we've seen Ollie. We were at Box Hill against Aspley when he got 30-odd. and playing really well. So the worry is if they're trying to do different roles at different levels, then it's getting a bit jarring and a little bit confusing. And just to go back a bit further, Emerson Jekker went a bit like that in his first 2 games. He was the stay-at-home forward in the ones, and yet he was a lead-up, big-bodied forward in the twos. So
Yeah,
it's one to watch for sure. But yeah, I'd be surprised if we persevered with Connor, especially if Chad comes back this week. I think he's labelled a test.
Yeah, I'm keen to see where Jekker ends up. I got really excited about him when he got to play, when we watched him at Box Hill, and but I don't know. He was so far off the mark when he did play. And it's such a big gap between VFL and AFL, and hopefully he can rise to the occasion. But I don't know whether he's got the mental fortitude or he's got it within him to actually take that next step and get up there, do the work that's required of him. So to me, Jekker would be ideal to play. Like, I'd rather play Jekker than Nash. But so I'm a bit disappointed in that regard that he did get a game over those other players that we've got.
We're talking about players who should be playing or potentially need to be playing. Mitch Lewis sounds like he's available after a month out with his concussion protocol. So whether he comes straight back into the team or not, like you said, you got Jekker there, and also got Callow, who's
my man.
Yes, like we said, we be a little bit of a nice tribute for him to play his first AFL game down in his hometown of Tassie this weekend. But whether he's done enough to earn the call up, we don't know.
We will see.
Sure. I think Mitch Lewis and Jack are ahead of him at this stage, but progressing really nicely. Like we said, we were down at the game against Aspley, and he's just got sticky hands, and he's not afraid to run and jump at the footy. 2 qualities that we love in tall forwards. But yeah, like you said, Chris, down at Tassie this week, we've got Freo. Last time we played Freo, I think, was the most frustrated we've been as fans this year. We went over through Optus Stadium, lost by 15 points, but we honestly believe that we should have won that game. For the first 3 quarters, geez, there's a big call. All right, yep. I'm interrupting myself now. That's interesting. But I'm
with you, Tom.
For the first 3 quarters of that Freo game, Jimmy Worpel went to Andy Brayshaw and basically lived in his pocket. Do you think we go with that again?
Oh, I think you have to, don't you? And if if they're prepared for it and we have to make changes on the day, so be it. But I think you have to start that way, seeing it worked last time.
Yeah. So, look, Robert, thanks for your comment there, mate. That was a nasty concussion for Lewis. They don't normally miss a month. Yeah, it must have been hit pretty hard. So, yeah.
I think
who was it again that did that?
I think Cozzy did it.
Cozzy. Okay, Cozzy.
But I think
blokes were excited about. Goodness me. Got a market year nomination. Hawks 2 in a row. Didn't win it this week, I don't think. But it's he was drafted as a defender that wasn't meant to be a forward, but is turning into one that he's 1 full preseason away in the gym to absolutely ripping this league apart. And I'm so here for it.
Yep. Yeah. Exciting player. So it's weird to think he was drafted at the same time as Sicily.
Yeah, some people take a little bit longer to develop, but
really? Okay.
I'm not 100% on that, but look, he had a lot of injuries. Every time he'd come back, he'd get another injury. So, yeah, finally got his body right, and he's getting some regular games, and we've seen the potential he's got. So I think, like you said, Rhys, he's just going to go from strength to strength now. So looking forward to it being a permanent forward to look at in the forward line.
Well, look, here's the other thing too, fellas. When we get Sicily back and DGB comes in, that's 2 spots in the back line, right? Mm-hmm. And our forward line is struggling a bit. Mm-hmm. And keep in mind, we've got Gunston coming back as well on top of that. So it's kind of like, I would not be surprised if Sis went forward going in the future, next season. Because I can't see them playing DGB in the forward line. He'll start in the back and he'll probably stay there. So I think, can you imagine having Chris and Gunston in the forward?
You wanted Hardigan out, so maybe that's where Hardigan Sicily and Frost are the two big boys, and DGB plays on the third tall. And Will Day pushes out. Maybe CJ and Will Day both on wings. Who knows?
Yeah, Jarman Impey as well. Got to come back. Jeez, it's good. Coming into round one, we had no depth, and now we're sitting around looking at round one next year going, we've got 28 blokes to fit in the 22 spots. So it's bloody beautiful, I reckon.
It's great. Bring on the finals.
That's it. We haven't won one for 6 years. It feels like it's a century. But
it does. It does. Great Hawthorn supporters. Yeah. All right, boys. Let's get into this weekend against Freo. What are your thoughts, Rhys?
I'm honestly coming into this season. If I could tell myself I was going to say this sentence, I'd be shocked. We need to stop Sean Darcy. And with all due respect to Sean, I doubt he's listening, but if he somehow is, he came into this season, and I forget which WA media personality it was, so I'm not going to name one and guess, but he was the fat bloke. He came to preseason as the fat bloke, and he's fighting with Darcy Parish on most improved player in the competition. He's top 3 ruckman in the league. I would argue he's been the second best ruckman this year. Big Boy in Segler or Reeves, depending if Reeves comes in, if Big Boy needs a rest, or we don't go with Segler again, have got a massive challenge on their hands. He's averaging 10 hitouts to advantage per game. And when you've got a midfield of Fife, Mundy, Walters can run through there, Chera, Sarong, Brayshaw. Jesus, I'm actually talking myself out of a tip here, but no, but
it's pretty intimidating, isn't it?
Yeah, we've got to nullify in the air. I'm not so worried about their tall guys back and forward, but Sean Darcy could genuinely tear this game to shreds, which is something we need to avoid.
What about round the ground as far as the ruckman goes? How mobile is he? Who's the best opponent for him this week out of Reeves and Segs?
Segler for mine covers the ground a bit better. Thought Segler was good on the weekend.
He was reasonable. I think he had about 18 touches, didn't he? 19 touches.
Yeah, and like a good ruckman, only kicked 1 in every 3 times. Jeez, it worries me when ruckmen kick around the ground. Goodness me.
Oh, I don't mind when Big Boy kicks. He's probably the best kicking ruckman I've ever seen.
Yeah, but the rest of them, no, don't do it.
Well, if Darcy goes forward, like Steve Camilleri said there, it might be Big Boy pushing back on him, I think. That's about your only option.
I'll correct myself. Paul Samuel was the best kicking ruckman I've ever seen. So Big Boy could be second. There you go.
Pretty good company he's in there with. Just a bloke that's in 2 team of the century.
Yeah.
But Sean Darcy isn't a big one to push forward. I think a stat came out. I think I don't know how many goals he's kicked this year, but his last 3 have been from outside 50. So he's not clunking them at the top of the goal square. So not sure about him going forward. I think Hartigan on lob makes a lot of sense, but I'm with you, Brad. If Hartigan can't shut down Rory Lobb, then maybe his future might be in doubt, but I'm backing him in.
I don't know if anyone else out there in on the comments can tell us, but I haven't got any news on how long Will Day is out for. I think he's a chance to play. You heard anything, Rhys?
He did a live video on Instagram, which unfortunately I missed, which I would have loved to have seen to see if he was still in the moon boot, which might have given some clues away, but no, I'm not aware. I'm going to assume he's not playing until I find out that he is. So I think Hawthorn fans should do the same.
Yep, fair call.
All right, so who the ins and outs for this week, fellas?
Like we said, I think we rest Burgoyne. We put Nash back to the 2s. And then there's a handful of players that were average that could be replaced. It's probably more about who's potentially to come in. Obviously, I think we want to see Denver back in the team. Will Day if he was available, but if he's not, I'll probably leave someone like O.Hanrahan or Tyler Brockman potentially up forward. Potentially Mitch Lewis back into the team. Not sure. I don't think we're going to make too many changes.
All right, so we've got the injury list here. So we've got Will Day, TBC, and Denver concussion, so is a test. Gunston, TBC, Impey out for the season. Mitch Lewis, test. Harry Morrison 3 weeks, Sis indefinite, Chad Wingard TBC. So all those TBCs, they're a good chance to come back in. It's I'd love to see those boys, all of them TBCs, to be back in. But Gunston, he's still got to be a ways off, doesn't he? Any news on Gunston?
We're not getting any feedback, and for me, that's pretty negative. So I'd almost write him off for the year at this stage.
Yeah. Even if, like, hypothetically, if he's fully fit at round 20, what are we going to get out of Jack in those last 3 games that's really going to make a whole lot of difference? I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. Jack's probably is my favourite Hawk, but if we're looking at it from grand scheme of things, get your back right, get a full preseason under your belt, and there's no reason why Jack can't come out next year and kick 40 and do wonderful things. So I'm not sure it's not like he's a young guy that needs, a few games late in the year to save his career or see if he can lock down a spot. Jack's a walk-up start, so if there's any doubt, leave him out, and that's a little bit of Dr. Seuss from me, boys.
Tell you what, with the hypothetical to put Sicily forward, if you got Sicily, Gunston, and Cozzy 3-prong forward line, Breusty crumbing with Brockman and
Dylan Moore, that'd be handy. They can't forget my man Dylan Moore, Chris. Come on,
starting to look very exciting with that back line. Will Day and who else do you want on the other wing? CJ on a wing.
Oh, CJ on a wing, yes, please.
If we can just boost this midfield in the draft, I don't know.
All right, so let's move into the predictions. Put in the comments for us who you think is going to win and by how much, and we'll read them out after. Chris, you're up first, mate.
Oh, like I said, it's a seesaw. You point out so many good things, and then you point out some negatives, or the opposition's positives. Down in Tassie, like you said, we were close earlier in the season. If we're at our best, we should be winning this, I think. I'll say, well, let's reverse it. Hawks by 15.
Yep. Rhys?
Yep. Hawks by 28 for mine. Pretty bullish about this. I think we're going to find out a lot about the character of the group when it comes to bouncing back. There is no reason why we should be going into this game thinking, we've got to play Freo. No. We get to play Freo. It still doesn't make sense to me how a team that travels every second week sucks at it. Doesn't make any sense to me. But down in Tassie, it's going to be cold. The WA boys aren't going to like that. So, pretty bullish on the Hawks. What about you, Brad?
Yeah, I'm going to say the Hawks. We want to get that win back that we lost to them, that we shouldn't have lost. And I think it's going to be a close one. One kick is my prediction that we'll win by.
And so, there you go. Beautiful. One kick. Adrian's pretty close there.
Adrian,
So, I've gone over to Instagram. Anyone listening or watching right now isn't following us on Instagram, we've become a lot more active at Talking Hawks. A couple of hours before we go live, we asked the fans to send in some questions, and I've got a couple of absolute corkers here for you fellas. Shanks_Isabel, your favourite win of 2021?
Question for us. Probably Bombers comeback, I think.
Yeah, Brad? I'd go with that.
Yeah, hard to go past the Sydney game from mine.
Biggest comeback in our history.
Yeah, St Kilda 99, mate.
No, in our history.
Tom's come on with a Freo 39 plus. So,
jeez, Tom.
But the majority are with the Hawks.
And how's this for a question, boys? Lockie_Barker. If you could have any Hawks player from the 08 Premiership team come back in their prime, who would it be?
So that's for my son. Is Lockie? He'd be saying Cyril.
Yeah, that was mine.
He'd be saying Cyril.
100%. No doubt about it.
Either Buddy or Cyril, and I reckon he'd go Cyril every day, as I would too.
Yeah.
So I'm going to answer that for you, Lockie. Let's see. All right. So also our website is the most dynamic, spectacular Hawthorn supporter website on the planet. Don't forget to check us out there at talkinghawks.com. We're very proud of the work that we've done Also, our sponsorship for the different players that we're taking care of is coming through. So don't forget to jump on there and check it out. Also, if you're not following us on any of these other platforms below, please take a minute to check us out there. We want to switch our viewing over to YouTube. We're not going to shut down Facebook, but we would love you to watch us on YouTube. Just helps with the algorithm and posting. We want to get those numbers up. So if you haven't subscribed to us yet on these pages, particularly on YouTube, please go over there and check us out. Let's see, what's the handle there? It hasn't come through yet. Sorry. It's Talking Hawks. You'll find us pretty easy. So anyway, boys, it's we're up and about, and I think it's a little setback, but it helps us get one of those top 2 draft picks, and I'm okay with that. It's been a big week with Clarko and Mitchie boy, but onwards and upwards, and let's go Hawks.
Go Hawks. Tune in on Saturday for the game. Don't want to miss it.
Excellent. All right. Take care, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Take it
Cheers,
easy.
guys. On delay.